This happened about a week ago. I'm Jamie, 35, and I went camping at a secluded lake. I wanted to escape the stress of city life and feel inspired for my wildlife photos. I set up my tent near the water. It was calm at first. The sun was setting, and I loved how the light played on the lake. The trees swayed gently. Then, as it got dark, it got quiet. Too quiet. I crawled into my tent ready to rest. Around midnight I heard something. It was a soft rustling outside. I thought it was just a raccoon or something. My heart raced, but I shrugged it off. Then I saw a flickering light in the distance. It wasn't too far away. I felt a chill run down my spine. I took a deep breath and peeked outside. Just trees. Everything was normal. I didn't know what to think. The next day went fine, or at least I thought so. I took my camera and explored the area, snapping pictures. The forest was beautiful with sunlight filtering through the branches. I focused on a few animals and tried to capture their essence. But as the sun set again, I felt that unsettling feeling creep back. Distant noises reached my ears, almost like whispers. I couldn't make out words. My heart raced again. I tried to ignore it. It was probably just the wind. That night, the noises came back. They were louder now. My tent felt like it was closing in on me. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped outside. I scanned the area, but I couldn't see anything. I felt like someone was watching me. Shadows moved between the trees, but when I looked closely, they vanished. I felt uneasy, unable to sleep. The next morning, I found strange symbols in the dirt around my tent. They looked like nothing I recognized. Was someone messing with me? I was alone, or so I thought. Each night, the feeling of being watched became stronger. I second-guessed myself. Was I letting my exhaustion get to me? Or was there something in the woods? Then, on my last night, it happened. I saw a figure between the trees, barely visible. I blinked, and it was gone. Maybe it was just my imagination. I was tired and on edge. Was I really alone out there? I decided to pack up early the next morning. I wanted to leave. But part of me wondered what really happened those nights. Did anyone else come here? Did they see what I saw? I couldn't shake the feeling that something had been there with me. The woods felt thicker as I drove away, like they were holding on to their secrets. I don't think I'll ever go back again. As I drove down the winding road, I tried to shake off the lingering dread. I wanted to focus on the beautiful scenery. The sunlight broke through the trees and I snapped a few photos, but the vibrant colors did little to lift my spirits. Each click felt hollow, as if the camera was mocking me. I kept telling myself it was over, that I was safe now. But deep down, something gnawed at me. A week later I was back home, still haunted by memories of the trip. I pored over the photos hoping they would bring me some comfort or joy. Yet, every image of the lake seemed off. Shadows loomed in the corners of the frames. I couldn't help but feel those shapes were more than just tricks of light. It was disturbing. I decided to print a few of my favorites. Maybe framing them would help. As I cut the edges, a sudden chill ran through me. I stood frozen, staring at one particular photo, a shot of the old oak tree by the water. In the bottom corner, there was a shape. At first glance, it looked like a rock or a bump in the ground. Then I squinted. It was a person, or at least what seemed like a person, blurred and indistinct. My heart raced. I didn't remember anyone else being there. I pulled out my phone, searching through my saved images from that night. I flipped through a dozen shots but found nothing that matched. I was sure I hadn't noticed them when I took the picture. It all felt wrong. That evening I decided to walk through my neighborhood hoping the familiar sights would ground me. I needed to clear my mind. But as I strolled, I often caught glimpses of movement out of the corner of my eye. Shadows darting past. I'd whip my head around, only to find empty streets. Soon, a sense of unease settled in my chest. Then I saw it, a figure at the end of the block half hidden by the trees. My stomach churned. I felt that same sensation from the woods, the feeling of being watched. I blinked, and it was gone. I told myself it was just a trick of the light, just my imagination. But the feeling persisted. When I got home, I grabbed my camera, wanting to capture the inexplicable sensation gripping me. I took pictures around my house, catching everyday details, a flower, a fence post, hoping to ward off the remaining dread. I felt ridiculous but couldn't shake the urge. It was late when I developed those photos. As the images materialized in the chemical bath, one caught my breath. In the window behind me, reflected in the glass, was a dark silhouette. I hadn't noticed anyone in the room with me. My heart dropped. I stumbled back, panic flooding my body. I whipped around to check the entrance, but it was empty. Just the usual clutter. I slammed my camera down, reassessing what I just saw. Was I truly alone? As I stared at the photo one more time, I felt the air thickening. I needed answers. But what I found might just lead me back to the woods I thought I'd escaped. I couldn't shake the image from my mind. That shadowy figure in the reflection haunted me. Who was it? Why had I felt so isolated yet so watched? I spent the whole night tossing in bed, every creak in the house sending my heart into overdrive. The next morning I resolved to find answers. I needed to go back to the lake. No matter how unsettling the memories were, avoiding them wasn't helping. I gathered my gear and caught the first rays of sunlight breaking through the trees on my way to the car. As I drove back, an inexplicable urge to retrace my steps grew stronger with each mile. The closer I got, the more that sense of dread returned. But I pushed it aside. I had to know what was really there. Arriving at the lake, it looked just as beautiful and serene as before. Yet an unseen weight pressed down on me, tethering me to the ground. I parked and stepped out, the crunch of gravel underfoot sounding far too loud in the stillness. I wandered to the old oak tree where I had taken that photo. Digging my heels into the soft earth, I positioned myself to capture the same angle. I held my breath and snapped a picture. As the camera clicked, I briefly glanced back, scanning the surrounding woods. "Hello?" I called out, trying to sound brave. No response, just the faint call of a bird. I took a deep breath, steadied my nerves, and turned back to the camera screen. I needed to see if I'd caught anything. As the image loaded, my heart sank. In the corner of the frame was another figure, more pronounced this time, someone crouching just like before. I felt bile rise in my throat. I felt the ground shift beneath me, as if reality itself was contorting. Suddenly, the feeling of being watched hit me like a wave. I dropped my camera. My instincts screamed for me to run. Just as I turned to flee, a rustle in the bushes made me freeze. I stood there, paralyzed, as that rustle transformed into footfalls drawing nearer. I turned to find the source, my heart hammering against my ribs. In the thicket, there was movement. A flash of gray caught my eye. Then I saw a glimpse of a face, eyes wide, mouth pulled into a grimace. Panic surged through me as I locked onto that strange expression. "Who are you?" I shouted, my voice cracking. The figure vanished into the trees. I stood there, shaking, feeling like prey in a predator's territory. It took every ounce of courage to step toward the spot where they had stood. That's when I saw it. A scrap of fabric caught on a branch, stained and dark. I reached for it, trembling fingers brushing against the rough edge. It looked like someone had torn it off in a struggle. As I pulled it free, the air chilled, and I heard a soft whisper. "You shouldn't have come back." I inhaled sharply and bolted back toward my car. I didn't stop running until I was inside, slamming the door shut. My hands shook as I gripped the steering wheel. I was no longer alone, and I couldn't ignore that anymore. I sat in the car, heart racing, trying to catch my breath. The whisper echoed in my ears like a warning bell. I turned the key, the engine roaring to life. But I couldn't shake the feeling of eyes on me. I checked the rearview mirror, expecting to see someone, but the road behind was empty. I needed to get away. I floored the gas pedal and pulled out of the lot, dirt and rocks flying behind me. The trees blurred into a green haze as I drove, urgency clawing at my chest. But where was I supposed to go? I couldn't return home, not with the image of that figure haunting me. I decided to head to the nearest town. It was a small place with a diner and a gas station, nothing too comforting. As I parked outside the diner, I felt momentarily safe within its busy atmosphere. People chatted, laughter floated in the air, and it granted me a brief illusion of normalcy. I stepped inside, the bell jingling as I entered. All eyes turned to me as I walked to the counter, my heart pounding in rhythm with the hum of overhead lights. I ordered coffee, hoping a warm drink would calm my nerves. But as I waited, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was still being watched. The waitress slid my coffee across the counter, her eyes darting toward the window. Something caught her attention. I followed her gaze, and my stomach dropped. Outside, a figure stood in the distance, partially obscured by the trees. My breath hitched as I recognized the same gray clothing. "Is everything okay, hun?" the waitress asked, concern etched on her face. Yeah, just..." I hesitated, unsure of how much to reveal. "I think I saw someone. Out there?" She looked out the window, squinting. "Just some kids playing, I reckon. The woods are full of them this time of year." "Right," I muttered, unconvinced. But when I glanced back, the figure was gone. I felt a chill run through me. Had it just been my imagination? I paid and left, moving quickly, the sense of unease growing stronger. As I approached my car, I spotted something on the windshield. A note, hastily scribbled. "Leave while you still can." My heart pounded in my ears. I looked around, searching for anyone who might have seen me. But the parking lot was empty now, and my only company was the wind rustling through the trees. I ripped the note off the windshield and backed away from the car, ready to run again. The waitress's voice echoed in my head. Just some kids playing. But I knew better now. The shadows were creeping closer again. I turned and sprinted back to the diner. I needed help. But just as I reached for the door, a sharp sound cut through the air. A snap of a branch. I spun around, eyes scanning the tree line. That's when I saw it. The figure was back, closer now, stepping into the light. I felt that familiar dread settle in my stomach. I had to find out what they wanted, or I would never feel safe again. I took a deep breath and stepped forward, ready to confront whatever or whoever I had unleashed. The figure stepped fully into view, and my heart dropped. It wasn't just a shadow, it was a person. Closer now, I could see the details of their gray clothing, worn and tattered. The face was obscured by a hood, but the outline suggested something unsettling, something wrong. "Hey!" I called out, my voice shaky. "Who are you? What do you want?" They didn't answer. Instead, they just stood there, unmoving. It felt like the entire world had gone silent. The laughter and chatter from the diner faded away, replaced by the sound of my own heartbeat. Every instinct screamed at me to run. But I didn't. I needed to know. I took another step toward the figure, but they shifted slightly, as if they were finally engaging with me. "Leave, while you still can." The voice was low, barely audible, but the message was clear. The words echoed in my mind. It was the same phrasing as the note. Panic surged up my throat. "What do you mean? Why should I leave?" The figure lifted a hand and pointed deeper into the woods behind them. My gaze followed, and I could see a flicker of light far off in the darkness between the trees. It was strange and unnatural, like a beacon in a storm. "Something is coming," the figure said, their tone urgent. "You don't belong here. Leave now." I took a step back, heart racing. I'm not leaving without an explanation. I felt foolish for my defiance, but curiosity had taken hold. With that, the figure tilted their head, as if assessing me. "You chose to come here, but you were not meant to find this place." The eerie calmness in their voice caught me off guard. "It's hungry. It waits for those who linger too long in the shadows." A cold shiver ran down my spine as something moved behind the figure, shifting within the trees. I squinted, trying to see, but all I found was darkness. "I don't understand," I shouted. "What waits for me?" Before they could respond, a loud crack sounded from behind them. The figure turned suddenly, eyes narrowing as if sensing a threat I couldn't perceive. Panic coursed through me, and I took 2 more steps backward, closer to the safety of the diner. "Stay away from it," the figure warned. their voice growing more urgent. "It's too late for some, but not for you. Run!" Then, without another word, they turned and dashed into the woods. I stood there frozen, grappling with the reality of what I had just experienced. My instincts kicked in, and without thinking I turned to sprint back to the diner. But as I took off, the ground beneath me rumbled, a low growl resonating through the air. I glanced back just in time to see the light in the woods flickering brighter, its glow almost swallowing the trees around it. The door of the diner swung open, and the waitress rushed out, eyes wide with fear. "What's happening?" I didn't have time to explain. "We need to leave," I shouted. "Now!" But as I hurried toward her, I felt it again, the presence lurking in the shadows, watching. I knew then that I hadn't seen the last of the figure, or whatever it was that awaited me in the dark. I grasped the waitress's wrist, pulling her away from the diner and into the unknown, as the woods echoed with a sound that chilled me to the bone. The moment we broke free from the diner's light, the chill in the air gripped me. I pulled the waitress behind me, glancing back at the diner that felt suddenly unwelcoming, a stark oasis amidst the growing darkness. "Where are we going?" she gasped, struggling to keep pace. "I don't know," I admitted. "Just away from here." I had no plan, just an instinct to escape whatever followed us. The path ahead was cloaked in shadows, the trees looming closer, as if they were closing in on us. As we hurried deeper into the woods, the distant flickering light caught my attention again. It pulsed like a heartbeat, each glow reminding me of the figure's warning. I hesitated, the tension thick in the air. "That light? Should we check it?" "No." She pulled harder on my arm, eyes wide with fear. "We have to keep moving." But something gnawed at me. The figure had seemed urgent, and a part of me felt drawn to that light. I frowned, torn between flight and curiosity. What if it leads us to safety? She stared at me, panic giving way to disbelief. Or it could lead to whatever that thing is. "We need to go, now." Reluctantly, I turned away, but with every step I took, the urge to look back grew stronger. We stumbled on, the forest around us shifting silently in the night. Then, a rustling sound broke the silence, making both of us freeze. "What was that?" the waitress whispered, her voice trembling. I swallowed hard, squinting into the darkness. "I don't know, just keep moving." But as we stepped forward, the rustling intensified, and then, bam! A branch snapped directly behind us. My heart leaped and I glanced back but saw nothing. The air was low and still, but the sense of being hunted clung to my skin. "Run!" I shouted, and we took off, the quiet woods swallowed by our panicked footsteps. The landscape shifted, branches clawing at us like desperate hands as we ran. Just when I thought we had the momentum to escape, I heard a whispering voice, soft but urgent. "Stop." It was haunting, pulling at my mind, begging me to listen. I stumbled, almost losing my balance. "Did you hear that?" The waitress nodded, fear etched deep on her face. "What was it?" Before I could answer, the trees around us stirred, leaves rustling as if answering a question I couldn't hear. "We need to get off this path," I yelled, veering off to the right, desperate for cover. We plunged into the thick underbrush, hearts racing. My breath came in sharp gasps, the night's tranquility shattered by our presence. "This way," I urged, knowing we needed to find a place to hide. But then, as I turned, I felt a weightlessness, as if the ground beneath me had vanished. I tumbled down a small embankment, landing hard on the ground. The impact stole my breath, and I scrambled to my feet, looking for the waitress. "Are you okay?" "Yeah, but," she began. But then the shrill sound pierced the night like nails on a chalkboard. Something was close. We pressed ourselves against the damp earth, heartbeats synchronizing with the rising fear that seemed to envelop us. I peered into the darkness, desperately searching for signs of movement. That's when I saw it, an outline emerging from the shadows. Someone was there. The figure stepped fully into view, and I recognized the gray cloak. My heart raced anew as I grasped for the waitress, but we were cornered now. drifting deeper into a reality I wasn't ready to face. My breath caught in my throat as the figure moved closer. The cloak billowed slightly as if caught in a breeze, but the air around us was still. I could see the faint glint of something in its hand. A weapon, a tool, or something worse? "Stay quiet," I hissed, nudging the waitress with my shoulder. She looked at me wide-eyed, her hand clenching my arm. I tried to focus on the shape in front of us, straining my ears for any sound beyond my hammering heart. "Who are you?" I called out, my voice shaky but louder than I intended. The figure paused, its face still shrouded in shadow. "Do not fear," it said, voice smooth like silk. "I mean you no harm, but you are in danger. The light you saw is a beacon, a warning. You must follow me." "Follow you?" I scoffed, adrenaline fueling my distrust. "We don't even know who you are." The figure took a step closer, and the light from a nearby tree branch illuminated faint features, a hood obscuring most of its face, but I could see a glint of eyes, sharp and unsettling. I felt a chill creep down my spine. "I have been watching. There are things in this forest hunting you." My hands trembled slightly. "What do you mean?" "I can show you how to escape, but you must trust me," it replied, tilting its head as though measuring my response. "Trust? You're cloaked in mystery while something evil lurks behind us. Why would we trust you?" The waitress shot back, her voice holding a mixture of bravery and fear that made me admire her. "Because your very lives depend on it." The figure raised its arm, and I saw the object in its hand, a thin, flickering light that pulsed like the one we had seen earlier. "This light is your only chance to evade the hunters. Follow me or stay and face what comes." I could feel the weight of choice pressing down on me. Part of me wanted to take that chance, to trust this stranger cloaked in gray. But another part screamed for me to run in the opposite direction. Time was running out. I felt it in my bones. "Please, we need to decide now," the figure pressed. "Are you serious?" I said, forcing air into my lungs. "You expect us to just follow you into the unknown?" "Yes. You will not survive unless you do." Before I could respond, the whispers returned, louder than before. They wrapped around my mind, weaving in and out of my thoughts, urging me to make my choice. I turned to the waitress, who looked lost and frightened. "What do you think?" She shook her head, eyes widening as a low growl echoed through the trees. The figure tensed, its gaze sharpening into the darkness behind us. "They are here!" it shouted. "Now what is your choice?" In that moment, the ground trembled beneath us, and a thrill of fear shot through me. I felt it in my gut. We couldn't stay here. I turned to the figure, desperation in my voice. "Okay, we'll follow you. Just lead the way." With a nod, the figure turned and moved swiftly, the cloak flowing behind like a shadow, merging with the night. The woods felt alive around us. Before I could blink, we began to run after it, my heart pounding as we plunged deeper into uncertainty. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw movement, dark shapes slithering between the trees just beyond the reach of the flickering light. We were not just running towards something, we were running from something far worse. The figure moved through the trees like it belonged to the shadows. I watched, heart racing, as we chased it deeper into the forest. The flickering light danced ahead, illuminating brief patches of ground and the gnarled roots that twisted around us. "Keep up," the figure called back over its shoulder. "We don't have much time." The waitress and I shared a wide-eyed glance. Every instinct told us to flee, to scream for help, but there was no one else in the forest, just the two of us and whatever hunted us. A rustling noise echoed from behind, followed by a low growl. My legs felt heavy, but I pushed harder, putting one foot in front of the other. I couldn't look back. I couldn't let whatever was emerging from the darkness catch up to us. We stumbled through the trees, branches whipping at my face. "Where are you taking us?" I gasped, barely able to keep pace. "To safety," the figure replied. But there was an urgency in its voice that did little to calm my nerves. It stopped and gestured for us to stay quiet. We halted in a small clearing, the flickering light illuminating our surroundings. Suddenly, the figure crouched low, beckoning us to do the same. My mind raced. "What are we hiding from?" I whispered, The hunters, it said. They track by sound and scent. If you make any noise, we lose our chance. It felt like eons passed in our stillness. I couldn't breathe without feeling the weight of panic. In the thick silence, every crack of a twig felt amplified. Then, from the edge of the trees came the dark shapes I saw earlier. They moved quietly, low to the ground, their forms sleek and predatory. I squinted, trying to discern their features, but the shadows wrapped around them like a cloak. "There are more of them," the waitress murmured, her voice tremoring. A chill hit me. It felt like they were hunting not just for us but for something deeper. The creatures paused, their heads snapping in our direction. I could see eyes glinting like coals in the dark, and my breath hitched. They sniffed the air and shifted, moving as a cohesive unit. "Now's our chance," the figure said, rising slowly. "We must move. Follow me, stay close, and do not make a sound." Panic surged in me. What if they chase us? How do we know they won't? "They will chase us," it interjected sharply. "That's why we must be quick, trust me." With no other choice, I nodded, heart pounding. We emerged from the clearing, weaving once again through the trees. I prayed the figure knew where it was going. I didn't want to end up as prey, but something felt off. The shadows shifted unnaturally, as if the forest itself was alive. Then I heard it. A sound unlike anything before, a resonant hum that vibrated through the trees. It started low, like a chant, building to something more. "What is that?" I whispered, fear creeping back in as I stumbled. "It's a warning," the figure answered, urgency in its tone. Just as that message registered, something surged through the underbrush. The dark shapes were on us faster than I could comprehend. I felt my pulse race as instinct kicked in, but nothing could prepare me for what happened next. That's when I saw it. A massive silhouette emerging from the trees, eyes ablaze, and it was headed straight for us. The creature advanced, its massive form moving with a grace that contradicted its size. I froze, a primal instinct battling my urge to run. The waitress gasped beside me, and I shot her a warning look, reminding her of the stillness we needed. My heart pounded in my ears. "Stay low," the figure whispered urgently. "It knows we're here." I wanted to sink into the ground, to disappear into the shadows, but the creature was closer now. Its eyes were pools of burning amber, darting between us as it sniffed the air, searching for our scent. The low hum from earlier morphed into a deep growl, vibrating through my chest. I felt paralyzed by fear. "What is that thing?" I managed to breathe out, feeling utterly helpless. "That's not just a creature," the figure replied, tension knitting its brow. "It's the Guardian. If we don't get past it, the hunters will find us." "Guardians?" I stammered, processing the word. "You have to be kidding me." But the figure didn't have time to explain. It adjusted its stance, ready to leap into action. I caught a glimpse of sharp teeth glistening in the scant light as the massive beast shifted, its muscular body coiling like a spring. Then it lunged. I screamed, instinctively grabbing the waitress, pulling her down beside me. In the chaos, branches snapped and dirt flew as we scrambled on the forest floor. I could hear the Guardian's snarling echo around us, drowning out the hum that had seemed like a warning moments before. "Get ready," the figure shouted, making a dash for the left. "Follow me." I hesitated, mind racing through possibilities. We could be cornered, caught in a trap laid by the hunters. The thought sent a chill creeping up my spine. But the Guardian was on a collision course, and there was no more time to think. Gripping the waitress's wrist, I tore off in the direction the figure had gone. We weaved through gnarled roots and dense thickets. The underbrush tore at our clothes, but I didn't stop. Whatever the Guardian was, it was clear I needed to trust the figure if I wanted to survive. Just as I caught up to our guide, another crashing sound came from behind, and I risked a quick glance back. The dark shapes were in sight, gaining on us like a pack of wolves. Instinct screamed at me to run faster, but fatigue clawed at my legs. "Keep moving!" the figure yelled again. "We have to make it to that break in the trees." I peered ahead, spotting a faint light filtering through a dense wall of foliage. Hope surged. If we could reach that, maybe we could escape. My resolve hardened, and I pushed forward with renewed energy. But then came the howl, a piercing, echoing sound that cut through the air and made my blood run cold. It wasn't just the guardian anymore. The hunters had joined the fray. "Move!" the figure urged, darting through the brush, pulling us along with it. With frantic breaths, we raced toward the light, the shadows of the forest closing in on every side. The noise swelled behind us, a cacophony of growls, yips, and the relentless sound of pursuit. There was no time to dwell on the terror. Only survival mattered now, and that's when I saw it. A massive tree, its trunk wide enough to hide us if we could reach it. The light beckoned, so close. With one final push, I threw myself forward, praying we weren't too late. As we burst through the last thick cluster of trees, I stumbled and fell, momentarily blinded by the bright light streaming down from above. The sudden warmth enveloped me, but I barely registered it before the figure pulled me back up, urging us forward. "Here!" it shouted, darting toward the wide trunk of an ancient oak that seemed to stretch endlessly into the sky. Inside the hollow, we sprinted to the tree, heart racing, lungs burning. The hollow was just wide enough to fit all three of us. I could hear the frantic pounding of my heart in my ears as we squeezed inside, the darkness swallowing us whole. I clawed at the bark for stability as the figure crouched low, pressing us into the cool, damp space. "Quiet now," it hissed, straining to listen to the sounds outside. I dared to breathe deeply, trying to steady my racing heart, while the terrified waitress shivered beside me. The cacophony of howling and growls outside became the forest's pulse, an unsettling reminder of what hunted us. I strained my ears, straining to pick out the sounds. Footsteps brushing against leaves, whispers in the wind. I turned to the figure, still gripping its cloak tightly. "What is this?" I managed to whisper, fear coursing through me. "What do they want?" "It's not about what they want," the figure replied, its previously calm demeanor seemingly shifting into something more frantic. "It's about what they need. They hunt those that seek the light, the ones drawn to the secrets of the forest." An overwhelming sense of dread washed over me, as if the forest itself had become a living entity, an oppressive air enveloping us, feeding off our fear. I would have laughed at the absurdity of it all if I weren't knee-deep in panic. A sudden growl reverberated through the hollow's very walls, making my chest vibrate. My hand flew instinctively to my mouth to stifle the gasp escaping my lips. They were close. Too close. "Stay still," the figure warned again. Its voice was steady despite the circumstances, and that quiet strength steadied me. "Do not utter a sound." Time seemed elastic within the hollow of the tree. We waited, the three of us suspended in silence. The chaos outside faded momentarily, replaced by an almost palpable tension. I dared not move, not even to check on the waitress, whose shaky breaths filled the cramped space. Suddenly the rustling returned, louder and more frantic. I felt the fear radiate off the figure, its grip tight around the edge of the hollow. The whispers intensified, sounding almost like a chant, urging me to succumb to the overwhelming urge to flee, to reveal our hiding spot. Before I could think, the darkness shifted outside, and I caught sight of something. Shadows undulating against the roots, darting around us. My breath caught in my throat as I realized they were searching. "Just a little longer," the figure whispered almost to itself. But it wasn't reassuring in the slightest. Then came the unmistakable sound of claws scraping against bark, the thud of something landing just outside our sanctuary. I could almost feel the tangible hunger emanating from whatever force lurked just beyond our fragile cover. "Leave while you still can," the figure muttered again. But this time it sounded almost like an echo of the phrase this whole ordeal had begun with. The whispers grew louder, and I squeezed my eyes shut, envisioning dawn to dispel the darkness, to vanquish the fears wrapped around us. We might never return to the light again. But suddenly, a burst of energy ricocheted off the tree's hollow, a pulse that rattled through us. I opened my eyes just in time to see the figure lifting its hand. The flickering light was back, glimmering like a lighthouse cutting through a storm. "Follow the light," the figure shouted, its powerful voice breaking through the whispers. "It will guide you home." And just like that, the darkness shifted, revealing a path lit with the same light that had called to me earlier. It felt urgent, beckoning me. Without thinking, I grasped the waitress's hand tight. "We have to go." The hollow seemed to rip apart as we shot out, propelled by a newfound strength. Light flooded our senses, illuminating the shapes in the woods. Those dark forms hissed and writhed, caught off guard by our sudden escape. The trio of shapes lunged directly towards us, shadows reaching for our ankles like desperate hands. But the strange light created a barrier, pushing them back. "Run!" the figure commanded, racing beside us but pulling slightly ahead. As we sprinted into the illuminated path, the forest morphed. Shadows twisted and contorted, but the light pushed the darkness back. We ran harder, the power of brightness filling us with a rush of clarity. I could hear the whispers fading, replaced by the rustling of leaves, the call of birds. Life returning to the woods as we broke free from fear, lungs burning, ground beneath us changing. I glanced to my side. The waitress was right there, fear still etched across her face, but determination had filled her eyes. The figure led us through, steady and unwavering, until we exploded from the trees, hitting open ground bathed in brilliant sunlight. The warmth enveloped us, and suddenly the weight of the forest fell away. We stumbled to a halt, pain in our legs but surrounded by safety, the shadows retreating into the distance. I turned back one last time, breathing heavy, staring into the border between light and something far darker, lingering just beyond reach. The figure still stood at the edge of the woods, shadows clinging to it, but it looked back at me with knowing eyes. Remember, some secrets are best left undisturbed. With that cryptic farewell, it faded back into the dark, disappearing before I could say another word. All I was left with was the light, the absence of the forest's claustrophobic grasp, and a multitude of questions that would linger indefinitely. We made it. I was safe, but a part of me knew the woods would call again someday. I turned to the waitress, an unspoken understanding bridging the gap of our shared experience. "I don't think I'll ever come back here," I said, shaking slightly from the adrenaline. "Neither will I," she replied softly, and despite all that had transpired, I couldn't help but feel the lingering threads of uncertainty. As we walked away together, I caught one last glimpse of the forest, its secrets hidden once more within, pulsing quietly beneath the surface. I still didn't know what was real and what was an echo of my imagination. But whatever it was would continue to itch at my mind like a whisper I couldn't quite grasp. And I knew this wouldn't be the last time I thought of that place.